called Jarvis Crays, and he is here with me going to talk about law enforcement. He was an Indiana State Trooper. And I would like to know what made you decide to go into law enforcement.
Well, it was back there in early '52, and I'd been out on a wrecker, brought in an old garbage truck out of a backwater down in near Belfast. I come in here all soaking wet, about half froze, madder than an old wet hen, and Ma had a fire going and some hot coffee, and she'd been reading the paper, and she said, "Why do you have to do that? They want state policemen. Why don't you put in for it? It'd be a cleaner job." The next day I wrote for an application. That was, I think, in February. And then things started rolling and kept on until September the 1st, 1952. I was sworn in as a state police officer.
Where did you have your training at?
I went to the State Police Academy at Indiana University. That was back when they had it on the campus at Bloomington, at the old Rogers Center. They had set up an old Navy barracks that moved in there.
Where were you located at after you graduated?
I was very fortunate. I come back to Jasper, worked on Jasper Post. I moved to Spencer County for some 6 months. And I moved back here in Lagodi, my own house, and stayed there the rest of my time.
Correct. The real first bad wreck that you worked.
Well, it was on Highway 66, just east of Hatfield. I was in my training period, riding with Trooper Max Bruggensmith. We were in Tell City, and we got a call in a bad wreck near Hatfield. And when we got there, some kid out of Owensboro, Kentucky, had passed a bunch of traffic and hit a truckload of soybeans head on. And the soybeans caught a fire and the driver burned up in the truck. And it took quite a while to clean the mess up and get the body out. And we were invited by some friends of Officer Bruggensmith to come over for lunch because we were tired and hungry and missed our supper. And they had a beautiful beef roast. And after I threw away that charred body, I couldn't eat a bite of nothing. That was the first bad wreck. The first bad wreck that I worked by myself happened on the mile turn just east of Shoals. And I was called out of bed about 3 o'clock in the morning, or 4, maybe 4 o'clock. And when I got out there was a carload of soldiers had hit a car head on, and there was 2 killed and 5 sent to the hospital. So traffic was stalled and backed up when I got there. And I had 2 Greyhound bus drivers and some truck drivers to help me. And we got the mess all cleaned up. And about the time we got done, my commanding officer, lieutenant, was in the post that night, and he came out there and checked on him to see if I needed any help. And he was very complimentary that I took advantage of all the help I got, and I had real good help. So these accidents, you never get used to it. You never get over the fear. You never get over the sickness that it almost causes. But you'll find out that there's a lot of good people that'll help you if you ask them to. Sorry about that. So, was taken at an accident happened in Beach Cut. It's a 1951 Ford that he'd hit a truck, the corner of a truck bed, If you'll notice, the lower lip is there, but the rest is been decapitated. And also, it's obvious that he had a can of beer in his hand when they had the wreck. The can is still laying at the tip of his fingers. It was a double fatality. That you just viewed was taken of a teenage beer party along County Road in Davies County. See, times have changed. I think the kids do drinking inside the buildings anymore. I don't think they go out and hide. I think, I don't know.
Some do.
Some do. Now then, I don't know how much beer we got, or how many we took over to the county jail, but we had several such raids before we felt like we had it pretty well broke up. I guess I'd take care of that for now. Now that picture is one of the things that you have to do as a policeman that makes you feel so unnecessary and so mean. The first gentleman on the left was a prosecuting attorney, Robert Falls. The other fellow was the high sheriff, Tommy Arlen. God rest her soul, neither one of them are with us now. And those were slot machines that was taken in a gambling raid in Shoals. What money there was left, you know, and the junk parts we sold went to charity. This picture is a murder scene. The old gentleman had been clubbed to death by his friend. These two fellows had come from Chicago years ago to retire, and they had the two of them batched, and they got into it over money that was given to them for the gypsum under their property. They had a stick about 3 foot long, about 2 inches or 2.5 round, piece of old persimmon bush, and had a can nailed on the end of it to use to moisture his clothes with. And one of them took that club and beat this one to death. They had a sign over the door, sales said Trails In. And of course I'd been there for some time, and it was referred to as being the end of the trail from, because they had retired from jobs in Chicago. But the grand jury took that as a premeditation, and they gave the old boy first degree murder charge instead of second degree or whatever. And then the guy that would be in charge of the crime, 3 or 4 days later, he went just like an animal, just went plumb out of his mind. And they took him to Michigan City, the state prison hospital. He lived 3 or 4 years and died there in the hospital.
Do you ever have any encounters in forgery?
Yes. The picture that you looked at a few minutes ago is a typical example of what sometimes you have to do in the field as a trooper when you're not able to obtain the services of the laboratory or technician. Those pictures I took at the store where the check had been forged and was used as evidence. Thankful the picture did turn out real good, but that was taken with a box type camera in the store building where the check had been forged. So you have to use a lot of your own common sense and whatever you get a hold of sometimes. Sure, the state has adequate laboratories and technicians to do those things, but there's not always conditions where you can get the stuff to them.
Still, when people refer to you as pigs.
Oh, that was mild. That's one thing you got to get your skin toughened into. Once you put on a uniform, you're living in a glass house. And what people can't catch you doing, they'll accuse you of doing. They'll call you anything that comes to their mind, except the son of a bishop. I never was called the son of a bishop, but I've been called an SOB. But that don't hurt nothing. I once heard a prosecutor tell a person on the telephone that he never knew of anybody getting hurt by words, even on the telephone. So they get aggravating, but it just builds you up to where you go out and do something. How do I get this saying?
Did this interfere with your family life? Like,
oh yes, yeah, your family lives in a glass house too. Actually, being a state police officer is no job for a married person. It's not a family job. My wife sat here in the house and answered the phone about road conditions, where would be a good place to go for a vacation, you name it, just like a, and the kids, they weren't treated the same as other kids because their dad was a cop. There's a lot of interesting things happen. A lot of things I'm proud that I've done. There's some other things I wasn't so proud of. But the most of all was the benefits that went with the job. And that's been several years since I left the department. And I still get paid for it every month. Now that's the blessing of it.
since you retired, has there been some laws? I know there have that's been changed, and do you feel that they have been for the better or the worse?
I have mixed emotion about the changes of laws. I have mixed emotion about our legislative system. We have a lot of laws on the book. We have enough laws on the book that if they were enforced, we wouldn't need no more. And most of these laws have been changed. I feel like that a bunch of damn lawyers got together and done it for their own sake. They haven't. It's not for the good of the population as a whole. So there's a lot of greed used in law enforcement that I don't, and in politics that I don't appreciate. So I think the best thing to do is to give the police officers the backing from the court system so that they can do the job and enforce the laws that we've already got.
Anyone that knows you around here when you were a trooper knows that you would try to give them a chance. You would give them a warning first. And then, if they didn't fix the problem, you would go back and give them the ticket. Now, did you have any problems, with your post by doing this, or?
Not really. Those so-called porters, I think, they really didn't exist. You got the feeling sometimes they were there, and I think that particular thing has grown since I left the department. I never wrote a man a ticket in my life that I can't look in the face today. That was one of the blessings of the old state police department, and I sincerely hope that that part of it hasn't changed. That when you're given an assignment in any area, you're the state marshal there, and you're entitled to your own opinion, and if you can't do it, if you can't take a person to court and prove to a judge or a jury beyond a reasonable doubt that that man's guilty of that crime, then don't take him. And I think that this was one of the things that made the state police what they are today. I know we had some young fellows that back in, and they would get ambitious and kind of stretch things a little, but they soon weeded themselves out. Now do I get the same?